Hey everyone, welcome to Lesson 2 of Humanities 1101 at West Georgia Technical College. This lesson is going to be discussing early prehistoric civilizations and what we would consider to be ancient civilizations. Now, when we say civilization, what does that mean? Historically speaking, when we refer to a civilization, it needs to have, depending on who you ask, somewhere between 6 and 8 really common traits to it. For instance, a civilization must have a defined social structure. There has to be levels within society. You've got your rich, your poor, your middle class. Wouldn't have called them that, obviously, in ancient cultures. Um, you have to have an organized system of government, whatever that looks like. In many ancient cultures, of course, this would have been presented as a king with an army and those who enforced the laws of the king. You would have social or the urban centers or cities. So you actually have to have com- communities in order for there to be a civilization. You need to have an organized or complex religion more than we worship the sun. It would have to actually have mythology and explanations of the deities and a story to it. A written language. If for something to be considered an actual civilization, we have to know that that particular society actually had a written language. So we have ancient societies, of course, which existed largely on oral tradition, but to be considered an actual civilization, they had to have a written language. There also needed to be skilled laborers. So, in order to be classified as a civilization, you wouldn't just have a society of hunter gatherers. You would have somebody who did the hunting, somebody who did the planting, somebody who wove the baskets, somebody who enforced the laws. So, specific skilled labor force. And then you also really need to have artisans as well. Now, that arts and architecture artisans, they don't always make it onto every list of what comprises a civilization, but for the purposes of this class, a civilization is going to be a group of people who have all of these things and who have the leisure time, or the social classes, or the interest as a society in beautiful works of art. And that could look different in each society. For some of the societies that we will be discussing this week, you would see this art appear on the walls of caves, such as the caves of Lascaux, France, or Altamira, Spain. And we may never fully understand the purpose of some of these works of art, um, whether or not they're a historical record. Portion of mythology, or just stories told in a family line. We may never know, but we do know that art was created for the sake of art, not on as of something functional, say, putting a decoration on a pot, but massive works of art. You'll be exploring them in your virtual observations this week, both the caves at Lascaux and at Altamira. But all of these elements combine together to be what we call an ancient or earlier prehistoric civilization. Um, some of the oldest known civilizations are, of course, in Africa and the Middle East. Um, and some of them still exist today for people to be able to explore or view at a distance, while others have been lost to time completely. Now, in these ancient civilizations, like we've said, they all have certain traits that are in common. One of these, of course, is complex religion. So they each have creation stories and other stories that you may even find to be familiar. Um, for instance, the Huron Native American creation story has distinct parallels to the creation story of the Bible. Um, Likewise, one of the pieces that you're going to be listening to for the music component this week is the ancient epic of Gilgamesh. Now, an epic is a really old story, usually, that uh, talks about bravery, heroism. They almost always have flawed uh, primary characters. In this case, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, um, we have this king who, while considered to be a hero, is not a great guy. Not good at all, morally speaking, and he oppresses his people. And the people cry out to the gods, and the gods answer by sending Gilgamesh an equal who he will learn from and who will be his friend. Um, and I think the original intention was that he would destroy Gilgamesh, but Gilgamesh bests his friend in battle. They become friends at that point, and then have these incredible adventures. If you've ever had the chance to read the Iliad or the Odyssey, think, fighting monsters and slaying demons and that sort of thing. All of that kind of action and adventure, foiled romance, all of that is contained in the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Epic of Gilgamesh has multiple stories in it that are direct parallels to the Hebrew Bible. There's a great flood. They say that there are certain portions of the Epic of Gilgamesh that closely parallel Ecclesiastes. And so you'll begin to see some of those parallels, and why so many ancient cultures were similar, we may never know. There are, of course, the famous standing stone circles of England and the United Kingdom, Stonehenge being the most famous standing stone circle in the world. There are many even better examples spread all over Scotland, some of the best being on the Isle of Lewis and Harris in the islands of Scotland. But did you know that built about the same time, thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, there are standing stone circles in Japan as well? Now, these two ancient civilizations, the civilization of the Celts and the ancient Japanese civilizations, they would have had no trade or communication between one another, and yet their standing stone circles serve some similar purposes and are designed in very similar regards. And this is where ancient humanities began to tie in with some of the more modern subjects that we think of. Like, we think of science and astronomy as being a very modern thing. And yes, it's very modern that we were actually able to make it to the moon, or that we build incredible skyscrapers. But for ancient peoples, using hand tools and working with slightly less defined systems of mathematics, the accuracy and the precision required to build something like Stonehenge are just absolutely mind blowing. And so that's what you're going to be exploring as you read through the textbook, you read some of these ancient creation myths, um, and listen to uh, old music. When you read or when you listen to the Epic of Gilgamesh the first time you go through, I want you to just listen. Just close your eyes, just listen to it. Um, and understand somewhere in here what it would have felt like to be sitting around a dark campfire, listening to the stories of the heroes being told, um, heroic stories that would provide hope and meaning to what would otherwise be a very arduous, very difficult life. And then I want you to listen to it a second time, or you could even stop halfway through and start reading it if you wanted to. But I want you to actually read the lyrics, which have been translated into English in the subtitles for the video. And then go and take a look at Lascaux and at Altamira this week. Um, Stand in Stonehenge and just look and spend a few quiet moments absorbing just the absolute magnitude of these works of art and science from the ancient world, which are things that we don't commonly associate with the ancient world. We think of dirt and rocks and maybe a pyramid or two, something like that. But we really don't give ancient civilizations enough credit for the advancements that they did make in terms of arts and culture and in terms of science and mathematics. So I want you to really think about those today and begin processing how those things began to set the stage for a development of world history and culture that led to where we are today. As always, if you have any questions, please send us a message in the messages link here on the left side menu of your Blackboard account, and we will get back to you just as soon as we can. I hope you enjoy lesson 2 this week. Have a great day.